Okay. Welcome to the May 18th, 2026 Measure G Oversight Committee meeting. City meetings may be observed live on the Salinas channel, on YouTube, Zoom, or on Comcast Channel 25. Zoom webinar participation. Zoom webinar participation is available for members of the public. The Zoom webinar ID and link are available on the posted agenda on the city website. Please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk, please call the roll.
Committee Member Cromings? Here. Committee Member Field?
Here.
Committee Member McCallum?
Here.
Committee Member Mendoza? Committee Member Salmina? Chair Sandoval?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're open for general public comment on the items that are not on the agenda and are in the City of Salinas subject matter jurisdiction. Comments on specific items should be held until the items are reached. Public comments generally are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. I may limit the time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule. Do we have any public comments today, either on Zoom or in person? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on for consideration. Item ID 26-223. Is it biennial or biennial? Budget updates, please.
Good afternoon, committee chair, committee members. Selena Andrews, Finance Director. The item before you is the preliminary biennial budget for 2026 and 2027 through 2028. My apologies. It's a long title. So this chart illustrates the operating expenditures since 2025 through 2026. You may recall from a lot of your staff reports where we reiterate the ballot language, which includes facilities maintenance, crime, gang prevention, neighborhood policing, school safety, and so forth, as well as public works projects. And as you can see, this chart illustrates that that's where a lot of the positions that it's currently funding are coming out of those departments and divisions. You also may recall that this measure funds 106.5 positions. 38 are within public works and 29 are within the police department. And then there's 15.5 in recreation and community development, as well as other departments. And this chart illustrates the expenditures from 2015 through 2016. Also within the chart identifies where these capital projects came out of, and some of them are fire station improvements, storm sewer infrastructure, traffic signal and street light upgrades, sidewalk and pavement improvements, and so forth, just to name a few. So just to go over the biennial budget process, the budget adoption starts in June, so the 2026, 27, 27, 28 budgets we anticipate will be adopted in June. And then in February of the coming year, 2027, there will be a mid-year review of the first year of the biennial budget. And in June of 2027, there would be a mid-cycle review. So that's an opportunity for the city and for council to determine whether the expenditures or the appropriations are are still accurate, if not make adjustments. This is for the 27-28 budget. And then in February 2028, staff anticipates doing a mid-year review. And in June 2028, staff would be presenting the 2028-29 and 29-30 budget for adoption. So this is an overview of the internal budget development process. In December, we work through to update our budget calendar. And meanwhile, we're closing out our audit, which is very critical because that informs the new budget, because we start with that fund balance. And meanwhile, we started work on the mid-year budget process. In January, we start meeting with departments and continue to work on that mid-year. In January through April, departments work on their budgets and make recommendations to the city manager. And in May, the preliminary budget or proposed budget is presented to the Finance Committee, and we anticipate bringing that budget back to this committee, and also having the budget study session in late May. And then in June, that would be the budget adoption. Council has set their priorities, and key elements of the budget are in alignment with economic development, housing, infrastructure, city services, public safety, youth, and seniors. And they're not listed in order of importance here. And you may recall from the staff report, you have this chart. This is condensed, so you have more detail in the staff report that's in table 1. As you can see there, the resources that were identified by staff are the general fund, Measure E, and Measure G revenues that the city anticipates receiving in both 2026, 27, and 27, 28. And then there's the appropriations, which are the the citywide expenditures. So you can see that there is a variance from the total general fund resources and the total appropriations. And that variance is ranging from 14 million to 17 million. And so the city had to use some budget balancing strategies. And how we did that is potential use of fund balance, reallocating certain CIP appropriations that were budgeted in prior years and are either not moving forward or they've been completed and there's certain budget that's left over. So then it comes back to the fund balance. Infrastructure reserve, facility reserve, police development impact fees, and those can be used to pay for the police building debt. And then there's a vacancy factor. As you may be aware, most agencies generally have some vacancies throughout the year, and so we try to determine what that vacancy factor can be in order for us to balance this budget. And so as you can see, the general fund is balanced after using some of these balancing strategies. And some of the city manager recommendations include the Share Center. And you may recall we were in labor negotiations with the IAFF group, so that's the fire personnel. And so those have concluded, and this is the cost to the city in 26-27. And the city manager is also recommending to unfreeze 4 positions and to continue the rental assistance program. And there's also funding in the budget for the SAFER grant that is expiring in March. So there's a difference there that the city would need to cover. Additional recommendations include adding a deputy police chief, continuing the sanitary sewer payment assistance program, adding an administrative analyst and code enforcement officer in community development, adding a combo building inspector and an administrative clerk also in community development. And the city is currently in labor negotiations with the AMPS group. And so that's another labor group that we are trying to determine how much to incorporate in the upcoming budget. And some recommendations also include for 27-28, include code enforcement officer, 2, and a combo building inspector. And so here's an overview of the citywide personnel at the start of the new budget. We have 677.5 approved positions. And here we have a list of all the positions that are being recommended for addition in 2027 and 27-28. And because the SAFER grant does expire, then those grant positions that are paid by the grant are being reduced here. However, through attrition, this isn't something that the city is concerned with in terms of absorbing these positions. And so at the close, June 30th, 2028, the city anticipates having a workforce of 679.5 positions. And now our Public Works Assistant Director, City Engineer, is going to give an overview of the capital improvement program.
Thank you, Selena. Good afternoon, Adriana Robles, Assistant Public Works Director, City Engineer. And what I want to talk to you about is our capital improvements program. As of April 1st, we have a balance that we are doing carryover of $65 million. And that actually includes a list of 123 projects citywide. Now, this balance is of all funding sources. It's not just inclusive of just the Measure G. I don't know if you recall, but in 2024, the city moved forward with increasing the sewer rates, and those sewer rates were successfully increased last fall. So what we are doing is what you will be seeing in the biannual budget for capital improvements is really a focus on improvements to the sanitary sewer system. This is just a projection of what we anticipate to receive from outside funds for specifically road infrastructure funds. This is the gas tax, Measure X, and SB1. Gas tax and Measure X, those are state funds. And the projection basically for the next 2 fiscal years are in the range of 15 million and 15.6 million. So these are, obviously we have, since I did tell you that we do have 123 projects in the works, this is just a highlight of some of the recommendations that are moving forward with fiscal year 26-27. The biggest of them is the sanitary sewer, which is an improvement of the Lake Street lift station. This is going to be a multi-year project, and also improvements of some of the sewer mains. Along with that is our street preventative maintenance, and this is the the program that, again, got approved by the City Council. In 2024, they approved a 5-year street improvement list. And so this street preventative maintenance fund is used annually for those improvements. Along with that is some ongoing design, so Baranda Road, hardened safe routes to school. This is a project that we received funding from the state to move forward with this project. And then some other projects that you see on here that are also have outside funding are Williams Road and San Juan Grade Road. And for fiscal year 27-28, again, the largest appropriation here is for the sanitary sewer sanitary sewer system. The focus again is on that lift station at Lake Street. We are currently doing a design build for that, and proposals are currently being reviewed for that. Some of the projects, similar to the prior one, some of the projects that you see here have outside funding. So John Street, this is John Williams, Safe Routes to School. This project, the funding that you see primarily is outside funding. This is state funding. So again, Hardin, Williams, those are all outside funding. So again, the street preventative is part of that 5-year list. And the pavement and sidewalk, that's basically city crews working on the city infrastructure. And just in summary, this is the overview of the CIP projects. Again, the focus, and this we've heard from multiple, we've heard it from the public, we've heard it from council, the focus is on infrastructure. And so we are focusing a lot of the funding that's being requested on streets, sidewalks, and of course, the sanitary sewer system. With that, we're available to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We'll start to my right. Committee Member Cornelius, any questions?
So I just had a couple of clarifications that I wanted to go back to. You mentioned, flip to that page, you mentioned that there were, that Measure G funds 38 public works projects and 29 police.
Oh, sorry, please turn on your mic. Sorry, I'm asking you to turn on your mic.
Sorry. Did you hear that? Do I need to start again?
Maybe just for the public. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that Public Works has 38 people that are paid for by Measure G, and the police have 29. Do you know what the fire and rec is on that?
Thank you for the question. So currently 7 within fire
Okay.
and recreation. Sorry, was that the question?
Recreation, yeah.
Yes, 15 and a half positions within
In half
recreation.
positions? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then my other question was, can you explain to me what a combo building inspector is?
Thank you for the question. We actually have our community development director here that will do a much better job than I can.
Yeah, Combo is just doing both residential and commercial inspection. It's our basic inspector. So anticipating development occurring in the future growth area, we're ramping up to bring on another inspector to
Okay,
handle
so
those.
instead of having that split with 1 and 1, you're just doing a combo?
Combo, correct.
Okay, perfect. Those were my only questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Community Member Michaela? We'll go to, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Member Field?
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, perfect. I just have a couple of questions. So on the section where it has the operating budget, and it showed the slide regarding the variance, I know part of it was, just for the public, part of it's getting funds from other allocations and then moving it into the Measure G, is what I understood?
So it's, at this time, we are still balancing the budget. And so there's still a lot of work going into it before we lock down the numbers. And so it's not specific to measure any of the measures, but it is within the general fund. But obviously, we're looking at what makes sense to be funded out of Measure G and Measure E.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And then on that same screen, it looks like on the general fund appropriations, on there, it looks like it's doing all the open positions. And then as far as the balancing strategies, the vacancy factor is backing those positions back out. So then initially in the appropriations is you're including all the positions.
Correct.
And then from there, backing out the ones that have the vacancies
Correct.
to budget.
And this is in coordination with the HR director and the city manager and what the city has seen in terms of historical vacancies.
Perfect, thank you. And then my final question is, so it looks like the budget comes out for the slide in May, is that correct? Initial budget comes out in May?
Actually, we are presenting the proposed budget next week on Tuesday, yes.
Okay, so as far as Measure G and Measure E committee members or the public, the best opportunity to let the city council know any changes that be made would be either at that meeting or right at the next meeting when the budget gets approved.
That's correct, or any time between now and then.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Those are my only questions. We are now open for public comments on this item. Any comments on Zoom or? No comments, okay. Any comments from the committee? Start off with committee member comments. Okay, committee member McLean, any final comments? Michaela, my apologies.
No problem. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
No, I just want to thank you for a very cohesive and understandable presentation. Thank you. No comments, but thank you again.
Yeah, my only comments were I appreciate it. I'm sure the public as well is showing all the projects happening, even if it's not just Measure G, because I know a lot of times some of the comments in Measure G are roads, sidewalks, and streets, but now it kind of shows like there's other projects going on that are being funded from other areas, so that was much appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you.
So there's no action required on this item. Is there any committee comments or reports before we close out?
Yes, we made a subcommittee a couple of meetings ago, but we haven't met yet. Any updates on that, when we might meet?
Can you remind who's on the subcommittee?
Myself, Amy, and I don't remember the third person.
You remember who the third person was? And maybe after the meeting, if you can provide her the contact information for the two members, that way we can kind of get started on that.
Alexis has already done that,
Oh,
because
okay.
I've asked her a couple
Oh,
times,
okay.
but nobody's contacted me.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll help you. We'll circle back afterwards, and I'll help you kind of make contact with the other members.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'm going to adjourn at 5:23. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice evening.